Good afternoon, friends. Uh, Welcome to the third session of Aakanksha Talks series. Today we have with us one of the alumni member of our Faculty of Science, Mr. Shashank Upadhyay, and he is the co-founder and managing partner of ScaleFactor Consulting Labs, and he is alumnus of B.Sc batch 1993 to 1996. Uh, Along with we have our respected Dean Madam, and he's supposed to be the director in charge of today, Professor Madhoolika Agrawal Madam from Department of Botany, and also we have Professor Mishra sir from Department of Mathematics, and he's our student advisor. So before starting the program, I will invite our student advisor sir for formal welcome. Sir, please.
आज के लेक्चर में मैं डीन मैडम शशांक उपाध्याय जी और सारे छात्रों का स्वागत करता हूं और उम्मीद करता हूं कि हमारे विद्यार्थीगण शशांक जी के ट्रेजेक्टरी से कुछ लाभ उठाएंगे। एक तरीके से एक रोल मॉडल भी हैं आप लोगों के लिए। आप ही की तरह कभी ये भी 93 से 96 में यहाँ B.Sc कर रहे थे। मैं उस समय अप्लाइड मैथ में PhD कर रहा था, तो कुछ कुछ इधर होता था तो उधर भी सुनाई देता था, कुछ गाना बजाना, कुछ प्रोग्राम हो रहा है। इन्हीं शब्दों के साथ मैं मंच हवाले करता हूँ।
Before going to our Honorable Dean Madam, I would like to briefly introduce our speaker. As I was mentioning, he is alumnus of our faculty in B.Sc batch from 1993 to 1996, and he is very passionate about business and startup mentoring, building growth and transformation journeys for enterprises. He has more than 20 years of cross-functional experience, business design, strategy consulting and advisory, and most importantly, he has led the Digital Innovation Lab for banking and financial services. He has expertise of strong leadership and people management skills with rich experience in building enterprise grade platforms and products. Now he is co-founder and managing partner in ScaleFactor Consulting Labs, Pune. So now I will request our Honorable Dean Madam, Professor Madhoolika Agrawal Madam, to briefly address the audience. Madam, please.
A good afternoon to one and all. Dear Shashank Upadhyay, the speaker of today's program, Professor S.K. Mishra, Students Advisor, Faculty of Science, Dr. Amiya Samal, organizer of all such kind of programs in the science faculty, many dear students, the volunteers especially, who are also involved in planning and executing this kind of program. I know this is the third in the series over here. So it's really very great moment in the sense that we are going to listen to someone who is our own, who is our alumnus, who has shown his capabilities to reach to a place wherein he is able to tell you where you can go. This is really a great moment of satisfaction for the institute that we have produced such a person like Shashank Upadhyay. I used to be here in this university when Shashank graduated over here. Maybe we never encountered during that time, or maybe yes. So with this remark, I thank you. Thank you, Shashank, for your giving this opportunity to our organizing committee and your further talk. Thank you very much. My best wishes for this program.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, madam. Thank you so much. Uh, Now I will hand over the stage to our speaker, Mr. Shashank Upadhyay, sir. Please, stage is yours.
Thank you, Professor Amiya and Professor Madhoolika and Professor Mishra. I think I'm honored and excited, and it's all my pleasure to be here and to be associated with Aakanksha, which we started. And I think I see Prafulla also part of this meeting. So we started this, I don't know, 97, 98. No, sorry, 94, 95, I think, if I'm not wrong. So you can say we have a founding member here, but I think Aakanksha was something that we were all passionate about, and somehow we did it. And good to see that it is still happening. It is still continued. The legacy is there. So very happy to be part of this. I would like to keep it very conversational. So please stop me and ask me questions, because that's how you can get something out of anybody. And that's the best way to also learn. So starting with that, I think, I chose this whole topic of learning is the only constant, because I think that is what takes you forward. And I remember and I'll start with how I landed in BHU, right? So, and at that age, when you are 18, 19, maybe 17, 20, I came after, those days, there were only two options. Either you do medical or you become a doctor or you become an engineer. Right? Those are the two options that were in front of you mostly. And that's the generation that I come from. And but that's not the case nowadays. And after 3 failed attempts, and I realized that there's something different that I need to do. So I dropped 3 years for preparing towards medical, and I failed in all three. Right. This was 91 to 93. All 3 attempts I failed big time. And I was aspiring for IMS, BHU, AFMC, and anything that you can think of those times. And that is the time when you were lost completely. At least I was. And those were the days when you had no internet, no mobile communication. And if you are living in a place where it is a small township somewhere in Chhattisgarh now, you are exposed to very minimal information. So you are limited to the knowledge of the tribe that you are living with. And that's also important. And remember this, and I'll come back to this, because you're building your tribe, right? So your knowledge is limited to the tribe you're part of. And those were the days when you can't actually move out. So very limited information, awareness. Where does learning, starts, or even it's always a constant process, like I'm saying. But that is what learning is not just about learning a subject or learning a skill. Or it is also about learning, being aware of what's around you. Learning is also about learning behavior. And learning behavior, when I say learning behavior, the way world behaves, people behave around you, and so on and so forth. So learning is not limited to, okay, I'm doing my, mathematics honors, so that's limited to maths. I think that's where the challenge is. So when there was no option in front of me, and I, and after failing for 3 years, you can understand my situation, and I'm kind of bringing this up, and maybe some of you also have gone through this, but I had only a few options in front of me, and therefore decision making becomes very, very important. So I took admission in Indore, Aliyaba University, and then why BHU, right? So at that time, I think it started all India entrance exams, started for graduation programs, and and I got through. One thing that I consciously made a choice, and that I'm not going to study, though it is the Bachelor's of Science, and I'm not going to study botany or zoology and things like that. I wanted to change, I wanted to learn something new. And therefore, the choice was geology, geography, and chemistry, which is GGC, and geology honors end of it. Because there's something something new, that something different that I wanted to do. So the reason I left Indore and came to BHU are multifold, right? One was that I've spent a lot of my childhood in Banaras. So I'm from UP, and my family is from UP, but I've never stayed in UP. I was born in Mirzapur, but after that we moved around. That was a good opportunity for me to go back to my roots. And my father is from ITBHU. My grandfather is from BHU. So I have many associations with BHU. My grandfather actually was the first prime minister. That time it was called Parliament at BHU, and maybe in early 1950s or something like that. And then he went on to become an MLA for BJP and so on. So there are different careers that he took, and BHU gave that platform. So I had a lot of associations, and therefore I left Indore and said I'm going back to BHU, and I always loved the campus. I used to be spending either my summer vacation or winter vacation there. I think the choice was that I want to, and it has a history and some grandness, and compared to where I was, and therefore I came to BHU. And my learnings were very, very different. So one, I was coming from very, three big failures, but then I had to prove myself. So my intent, again, learning was to, come back in life, kind of a thing, right? And the environment was good. The network of people that you were with pretty good, and I think I cherish those moments still. I think the learning was when I saw the opportunity of interacting with different kind of people, especially professors, and my favorite became human geography. So I never pursued it further, but that became my favorite subject, and that actually gave me some insights into human behavior, psychology, and all of that, which I did later, for that matter. So, from a learning is a constant point of view, I learned different things. Maybe I'm not applying anything that I learned right now from geology, geography, or chemistry, but it is always, something that I learned from being there, and the hard work that I picked up after that, because I was trying to prove myself after 3 failures, and the opportunity that I think, when I entered the Central Library for the first time, I was amazed by looking at it and the opportunity that it gives. Today, you have the world with you in your hand, smartphone. But I think that's still one of the good places, and I remember spending a lot of time there, um, reading whatever I could, not necessarily human geography or geology or chemistry, but something else. So that's point number one. In fact, I think the more you go out of your horizon, which is whatever stream that you're part of, whether you're doing BGC, GGC, PMG, PMGR, or whatever, I think you need to actually move out of just those 3 subjects and figure out, what you're going to do with it and what's your next step. So I think the second thing that I would want to kind of go towards is, how do you kind of shape up your learning? And that comes from what kind of choices you're going to make in life. What do you want to be, who you want to be? That kind of starts shaping up, what you learn and how you learn it. And obviously, then I went on to do my MBA. Because again, we were there, and one of our seniors, and again, a lot of failures, right? So no calls from IIMs and XLRI, regret letters, and so on and so forth. Everything all start coming back, and finally I get a call from Go Institute of Management. And that too, it was new, right? So how do you then really choose between, a college which is just 4 years old, and you go back to faculty, look at the faculty and say, fantastic faculty, should I take a chance? Where will I end up? Where will I land? Versus saying, okay, I can take a drop again and say, I'll appear again for CAT and crack IIM. There is so much of uncertainty in life which is, and why is it there? I mean, I think what is uncertainty? Uncertainty is because of two things. You don't know what you don't know, and certain things you can't even know. Right? So that's uncertainty, right? And it's always there. I mean, it's part of our life, and we will. And the learning is as you grow, as you go through your career, there's a different kind of learning. But then there is a lot of uncertainty which you have to accept. You can't always be right. Your decisions can not always be right. So you don't make your decisions based on the outcome. That's one learning that I have sort of, that's a revelation for me. And it has happened over time. So what are the options in front of you? It's like, you're playing cards and there is somebody sitting next to you and the both of you are playing cards and you have your own hand, but you don't know what other person has. And that's life. Right? So play by what you have in your hand, play with the cards that you have in your hand, and you'll have to take chances. And yeah, so the learning that came very late, and I realized is that, and because we are talking, and I want you guys to make better choices. That's all I can do. Um, it's not a career advice session, but I'm saying, how do you really make choices? And feel free to ask questions. But and I'll say that make choices what is there in front of you, because your decision or good decisions can also lead to bad outcomes, and even bad decisions can lead to good outcomes. So I won't say that whatever decisions I've made, the outcomes have been always great. I think what I've realized is your decision making should be independent of the outcome. So don't always ye karna hai to main ye karunga versus saying what is there in front of me. And there is a direction, but make choices based on the facts right in front of you. So that is very, very important as you go. And whatever what is learning again? The outcomes are actually learning. If I fail, I learn, and then I need to change something. So whenever you fail, I think take the learnings out of it. Some of the examples, and I can only give examples from my life. So, I remember early career days, right? So when I landed up at MBA, I realized that, and that was a revelation where I stand, and it might happen. And I also come from a very small town, then BHU, and then GIM, which was Goa Institute of Management, had a different set of people there. And the revelation was, again, where I stand. And I think always you should do this, challenging the status quo and, challenging yourself in terms of where I am, is this where I want to be, what next, and so on. So micro steps. But what I realized, and the big revelation was, after spending probably 2 months, was that there are certain subjects that I can learn even 2 years down. I don't have to learn that in 2 years of my MBA program. Where I was struggling, what were my weaknesses, I need to work on those. And that was a big revelation for me, which was, how do I communicate, my communication skills. And with the people that I was with, I think they were coming from different backgrounds and different cities, from one of the best colleges, from Lady Sri Ram College to some of the ITMs to colleges in Bangalore and Bombay and Xavier's and so on. That kind of shook me, and that was my second learning, that I thought I've done fantastic job of at least landing myself up at GIM, but then I realized where I stand, and then I need to work. So how do you take those learnings and inputs that life is throwing at you and applying it to become better every day? I think that is probably, I would say, and therefore, until today, I think that's what is happening, because especially in consulting, I realize that it's more like a doctor's profession where I have to stay updated, so I'm kind of reading every day. But that was a big revelation. And how do I put a lot more effort in becoming a better communicator, better writer, and reading more than what the management books teach. Because after I finished my MBA, actually, I have more books than I read in my MBA school days. I realized I could do that later. So that's how I kind of traded off with what I need to learn here and before I went out of the campus. right? Was my communication skill, and I focused on that, and I thought that's one big important thing that I need to, set right before I step out of out of this college after 2 years. So, and a lot of learning on the way. Of course, you make a lot of good friends and people, and you know what works, what doesn't, and that, always say choose your friends wisely. That works. Huh? So you are probably a bunch of 100, 200, 300 people, and this network is going to live forever. And I think that helps a lot, whether you realize it or not. You know, you will be going different places, maybe higher, better, different, and later that's what, if we can create some sort of a BHU mafia, that actually helps, and the collective kind of gets better and better. So that's I think working on the weakness is something that you need to realize, because what happens typically is, and I would say that if you make elephant climb the tree, never do that. Either if you are an elephant, you change your, you become a monkey, or you do something else. If you're not able to play a game, either you change the game or the playing field, or you need to work hard and become a good player. So hard work is something that you cannot even compromise on. So I think one of the things that I realized, and as part of the learning to, after graduating, doing my MBA, is what am I good at? The first thing that life threw at me after my B school was, and that's why I'm saying don't make elephant climb the tree, is because I landed up in a sales job. And I realized, because personality was such that I wasn't able to do well in sales. Right? So I realized that either I need to do something about myself and become a good sales guy, or I change my profession. Right? I change the game itself. And that's what I did. I mean, you'll have to make some, and it's a bet. I mean, I would have failed big time, even after changing the game. But those are the choices that you make. Those are the bets that you have to take in life, even if it is with a 50% probability of winning. Right? So you have to make those choices. So that's what I mean. So I think it's very important to take a step back and look at, what are you good at? What are you liking? And if I can amplify those strengths that I have, fantastic. If I'm at the wrong place, maybe I'm the right guy, but at the wrong place, then I need to change that game, change that place, do something else. And those are the things that you only get when you take a step back and do a little bit of retro with yourself, or reflection on things that you're doing. Even now, if you do that, it'll be good. Questioning things like, why am I here and what am I doing, kind of a question, versus, just flowing and not reflecting back in terms of where you want to be and what you want to do. So that was another big learning in terms of what you're good at. Either you change or change the game. Right? I think that's very, very important. And as I moved across, and I realized that, and why I am not liking sales was probably I wasn't really getting stimulated much with learning part of it. I wasn't learning. I was like a workhorse, going out and selling. And I wasn't doing that way. But I was doing okay. And is that what I wanted? Probably not. I didn't want to be a workhorse, but I wanted myself to be challenged, both intellectually and otherwise. And therefore, I decided to switch profession, and sort of went into IT and started my role with a consulting role, and a very junior sort of a business consultant kind of business analyst kind of role. Now you can think about saying, "Oh, I'm not even an engineer. And how did I land up in IT?" That also happened. I was forced to climb a tree. I was an elephant. This is a different game. And I was asked to actually do coding. And I'm not an engineer. I've never done coding in my life, just because there was something in this organization which said you have to have X number of developers with a certification and hands-on coding. I took that challenge and said, things, and I'm not saying that, sales, I never learned anything. I think I became very thick skin because you har din gali padti sales, right? So my tolerance level, my resilience level, all went up. I think there are things that you take away from anything, that whether you like it or not. I think that you're taking away certain things from whatever you're doing. And I think if you look at it that way, I think you'll be a happier person. But if I look back, sales, that those are two things. My personality also changed a bit. Maybe though I didn't like sales, but earlier I was slightly introvert, but then I became a much better person, even though I was failing on sales numbers. But with all the galis around and, sales meetings and you getting blasted almost every day, my resilience and my tolerance level actually went up. So there are good things that happened. And similarly, when I was given this whole job of software development, which I had never done in my life, I took on the challenge and let me see what this beast is all about. I said, okay, I will do, and I did well even compared to engineers. But I took that chance of saying, what's the big deal? Let's do it. And I think that's another learning that I would say, and I would like to share, and I always do that with a lot of people who start careers, is that whatever is thrown at you, if you give your 100%, I think it's going to help, whether you like it or not. Immense learning there. And I'll tell you, I've seen in my career also, you may think, and I think I'm remembering that कोई मूवी का डायलॉग था ना, कोई भी काम छोटा नहीं होता, शाहरुख भाई का डायलॉग. So अगर वो attitude है, I think a lot of time people are looking more than skills, the attitude, right? And if you have the right attitude, you will really excel. So, I'm actually looking back and connecting dots, but that's how I probably do a retro with myself. Is what if I had said no, मैं ये नौकरी नहीं करूँगा? And in fact, I was young and I fired an email to the CEO saying, what is going on? I'm an MBA. I've been hired for, a management training position, and I'm given this whole coding job. After doing all of the certification, better than the engineers, I cleared everything in one go. And I was sitting and coding, and again, the sales, you're making elephant climb the tree. And I wasn't doing well. Anyone who does software development knows, I was just handling exceptions, right? And none of my code was working. Right? But then again, I met this guy who was a good mentor. And when I fired that email to the CEO saying, "Ye kya chal raha hai life mein mere?" And this was almost after spending 8-9 months into it. And whatever was given to me, I did well. I wouldn't say I did exceptionally, but I did well, gave my 100%. But outcome, like I said, is not always the way you want it. Right? And that's where the luck comes. Luck kya hai? Luck is uncertainty. Right? And things don't work your way. So bad luck works your way. Great luck. All that happens because that's uncertainty. Right? So I wrote an email. Kya hoga zyada se? I will be fired. Good thing that can happen. I might move into a different role. But I had to take that chance. Again, I had whatever facts in front of me. I had to make choices. I think, the big learning is how do you make decisions? How do you make choices? And make choices and decisions, they always what facts you have in front of you. There is a probability of winning and losing, but then you have to take a bet. Unless you do that, there's no learning also. So I fired that email and things changed, and I was called, and one of the TCS veterans called me, and I thought I'm going to lose my job today. He was the senior vice president for HR and running operations. And when he said, the first thing that he asked me, and I still remember, and I was probably just 27 that time, was, Shashank, तेरे को वनडे खेलना है कि टेस्ट मैच खेलना? Do you want to be a one-day player or you want to become a test match player? With all the, I wouldn't call it, I will say with all the, with whatever knowledge that I had and ignorance, I was completely clueless. Right? And then I said, I don't understand. And I'll come to this point also later. But I said, I don't understand what you said. So, again, if you want to become a lambe race ka ghoda, then you have to learn more, do more. And that stuck with me for my entire career, even till today. Right? He said, if I know that, you're being pushed to learn technology and do software engineering, and that's not your role here, but he was trying to convince me, and I later realized that what if I know technology to whatever extent I can, is always going to help me and become a better consultant or a better, even if I'm doing sales or business development within that space, I'll do much better given that I understand technology and the broader aspects of technology and how it works. So he said, I don't want you to fail. So the more technology, the better it will be. So I spent a couple of more months, and then my role was changed, but I realized that helped me a lot in terms of becoming a good sort of a sales consultant or business analyst, because I had a lot of understanding of the technology. So I think you'll have to take best make choices. You cannot be always sure of, and it's always good to say, okay, I'm doing B.Sc honors chemistry, and I'm not sure. So this I'm not sure is not a bad statement. I think it's a good state to be in, because then you are exploring. And when you are exploring, then you can say, what are the choices in front of you? I think I'm not sure is also a good state to be in, and you explore, you experiment, you learn, you fall, you learn, and then you come back. I think if there's nothing wrong in saying I'm not sure, and then how do you ensure that you have, and that surety, that little bit of certainty, comes with knowledge and learning, right? So you go and learn and know more about certain things. You read books, you know more about certain things. Outside of your chemistry honors, you read something. You might be interested in psychology, you might be into sociology, you never know. But then that's what you need to figure out in terms, okay, how can I combine two things to become a better sort of a student and then a professional? So it's always good to say, okay, I'm not sure. And that kind of opens door for you, and doors and opportunities in front of you. And then you make choices based on what you have. I think I've done enough of talking, and I would love to take questions. But then, a couple of things two, three things that I talked about are the whole decision-making process and how you go about making choices. Because there is uncertainty, which comes from what you don't know and what you can't even know. So that's one thing. What you don't know, you can actually improve that area by learning, knowing, reading, talking to people more, and reduce. Everybody, large corporations, big corporations, small startup, what are they actually doing? See, uncertainty is always there. Big startups fail with $1 billion valuation, they fail. Large corporations, they're always managing risk. They're always managing risk. And they're always managing uncertainty. What if? And a lot of companies went to Ukraine, set up their software development centers, and they're on the hindsight, and that's another thing, the hindsight bias that you have, right? Which is basically saying, oh, ye nahi karna chahiye. That time, I mean, will you say that, let's say Global Logic or Infosys opened a 2,000 people center in Ukraine was a bad idea or a bad decision? It's easy to say now because you're looking at the outcome and saying the decision was bad. But that 5 years back, Ukraine was probably the most important center, both from talent point of view, from the kind of engineers that you have at a price point that you get, location-wise, everything was fantastic. So the decision was perfect based on the facts that were in front of us. And we opened a center with 2,000 people sitting in Ukraine doing software engineering, hired in Ukraine. Today, you can say, oh, bad decision. Why? Because the outcome is different. Right? So, good decisions, bad outcome. Perfect example. And there could be bad decisions, but good outcomes, right? So a lot of corporates and everybody, including individuals like you, me, and us, everybody is actually trying to solve for that uncertainty that everybody has in life. And that can be reduced. I'm saying it cannot be eliminated. That can be reduced just by sheer learning, always learning. And when I say learning, it is about learning what you are doing right now. More than that, acquiring new knowledge and skills in different areas, if possible, exploring newer subjects and topics, interacting with different kinds of people, different streams, um, and widening your horizon. That kind of brings the uncertainty down a little bit, and you will be a better person when you make choices, when you make decisions. I think I will stop at this, and I hope this was useful. And I'll take questions now, another 20 odd minutes, if that is okay. And once again, thanks for giving me this opportunity to talk to you all of that. I think this is very, very important. Nobody was talking to us when we were there, and we were living in our own world of PHU, from Lanka to Palwan ke yahan se lassi kha pi ke wapas cycle pe and JC Bose mein aake masti karo. And but there were things that we were learning from, so why again I'm going back to my GIM decision, right? I had a couple of more colleges, but when I spoke to one of my seniors, he said, and he's also from BHU, he's in 97, he's 92, yeah, and he was my senior at GIM. He said, come here, agar tere paas option nahi hai, this is the best place to be in. The great faculty, all of them are from XIM, XLRI, the best faculty that you can imagine. And I think hindsight again was a good decision. But second year I was really cursing and thinking, was this the right decision? Right? Because placement 98, market down, everything down, you can blame it to anything. Maybe we didn't work well, or we didn't prepare well, or whatever that is. But I think on hindsight, good decision. The kind of people that I'm connected with because I was there, I don't regret. So that's again a hindsight bias. That's always there. But when I was making this choice of which college to go to, I think I spoke to just one senior. In fact, when I jumped into and became an entrepreneur 5 years back, it was again a decision point in my life. Right? After working in IT for 20 odd years, across different, so my learning was very, very high, I would say, because I would change stream, profile, role every 3, 4, 5 years. And that's how I kind of ensured that I'm kind of learning everything, learning new things every day. And I did different things at different points in time, from struggling with software development to becoming what I'm doing today. And all that is experience that is getting applied, nothing else, right? And that choice that I was sitting in 2017, what do I do? I had an option, and it's not that I was doing bad, I was doing fairly good. I was heading the innovation for banking, fintech. But I thought, how do I apply this, whatever I have done in last 20 years, to various other startups, and how can I help? And I started going to some of these B schools for classes and teaching students and so on. And I realized one thing that, even for example, this batch and even the freshers from different B schools, I would request, the Aakanksha team, Professor Amiya, Professor Madhoolika, and whoever is behind this initiative to continue and have more such sessions with different kinds of people from different batches. I think that helps a lot with student interaction and the exposure and the kind of questions. I'm hoping there will be some. It changes perspective. It helps a lot in terms of, we will not help you solve the problem, but at least help you make choices, help you make better decisions, better choice. That's what we can help you with. And these interactions are very, very important. So when I saw that, and when we started working with a lot of companies also, we realized there is a gap, and how can we apply some of the learning that I have and some of my co-founders have to do different kind of, don't limit ourselves to a particular industry, apply it in general? How do we solve problems in the business scenarios? And that was the choice that made me think, can we do something on our own? And we did, and we made a choice. Again, that time, what do you look at? What are the facts in front of you when you make a decision like that, right? Can I take care of, if this fails, and you are looking at, the uncertainties and the outcomes that may or may not happen, but at least weighing your decision. If this works, fine. If this doesn't, then do I have enough to sustain my family, education for next 3 years or whatever? There are multiple things that you look at and then make a choice without, of course, knowing the outcome, which could be good, bad, ugly, whatever. But then you have to make it, and you make it. And then right now I can say, okay, whatever I did last, 5 years back was a good decision. Why? Because the outcome is fairly okay. I wouldn't say great. But that's how you should look at it. Right? So take chances, experiment, change something that is not working for you, or you work hard on yourself to become a better person. I think, and that can only come, like learning knowledge, acquiring as much as you can. You have, I think, phenomenal thing at your disposal, which is internet. And there's so much out there. There's so much out there that you can learn from. I think that's a blessing, I would say. And leverage it, exploit that information, knowledge that you have at your fingertips. And I will leave you with that. Thank you so much.